Welcome to Truly Scary High School Stories. Smash like and subscribe to tread the thin line between reality and the surreal. Let's begin our eerie expedition. Jacob had always found solace among the towering bookshelves and the musty scent of old pages in Elmsworth High's vast library. However, beyond the rows of literature and history, behind a locked door marked staff only, lay the Forbidden Zone, a section surrounded by whispers and warnings. Unlike his peers who veered away, Jacob's curiosity was a beacon drawing him closer to the mysteries it held. On a rain-soaked Tuesday that seemed like any other, Jacob made his decision. Armed with a stolen master key and fueled by stories of dark knowledge hidden within, he waited until the library's usual din dwindled to silence. The clock struck late afternoon when he finally slipped through the door, his heart racing not just from the thrill of trespassing, but from the allure of the unknown truths that awaited him. The Forbidden Zone was unlike any other part of the library. Dust particles danced in the shafts of light, piercing the darkness, illuminating a collection that seemed to swallow the very sound of Jacob's breath. Here, the shelves housed books that bore no resemblance to the sanitized texts outside. It was on the third shelf to the left that Jacob found it, a leather-bound diary with no title, only the embossed initials E.H., Elmsworth's founder. Flipping through the pages by the light of his phone, Jacob's excitement morphed into horror as he stumbled upon a detailed account of a social experiment conceived by the school's founder. It spoke of molding society by manipulating the inherent social hierarchies within a controlled environment, Elmsworth High itself. The experiment, it seemed, was designed to continue evolving, with each generation of students unknowingly contributing to a twisted study of human behavior. The gravity of his discovery was still sinking in when shadows shifted in the doorway. Heart in his throat, Jacob looked up to meet the eyes of Sarah, his only friend at Elmsworth. "What did you find?" Her voice was a mix of concern and curiosity. Before he could respond, the need to share his burden overpowered Jacob's initial shock. He whispered, "Something terrifying," and drew her into the dim light to show her the diary. In the days that followed, an unsettling air enveloped the school. It started subtly, friends turning on each other, cliques shifting with unusual rapidity, and teachers displaying odd favoritism. Sarah, with her straightforwardness and disdain for the school's unspoken hierarchies, became an immediate target. One day, Jacob watched in horror from across the hallway as a group of students, emboldened by the toxic atmosphere, cornered Sarah. The confrontation was brief but brutal, leaving her on the ground, nursing a sprained wrist and a bruised ego. It was a wake-up call for Jacob. The experiment was no longer a mere historical curiosity. It was a living nightmare encroaching on their reality. Feeling trapped and desperate, Jacob sought the guidance of Mr. Hughes, a young history teacher known for his empathetic approach and charismatic demeanor. Sitting across from him in the empty classroom, Jacob laid bare the secrets of the Forbidden Zone and the diary's contents. Mr. Hughes listened intently, his usual warm smile replaced by a grave expression. As Jacob concluded, expecting support or shock, Mr. Hughes leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried an edge Jacob had never heard before. "You should have left well enough alone, Jacob. Some secrets are meant to stay buried." The revelation hit Jacob like a physical blow. Mr. Hughes was not the ally he had hoped for. He was part of the nightmare. Standing up, Mr. Hughes's final words echoed ominously in the suddenly oppressive air of the classroom. "Be careful, Jacob. You're playing a dangerous game now." Alone, with the trust he had placed in Mr. Hughes shattered, Jacob realized the depth of his isolation. The experiment had not only taken over the school, but it had also ensnared the one adult he thought could help. The stakes were clearer than ever. It was down to him to expose the truth, no matter the cost. After the disheartening discovery of Mr. Hughes' involvement in the twisted social experiment orchestrating Elmsworth High's unseen horror, Jacob found himself in the sanctuary of his room, surrounded by the digital glow of his computer screens. The betrayal had knocked the wind out of him, but it ignited a fire within, a determination to dismantle the insidious machine that had taken his friend Sarah and threatened to consume them all. Sitting there, in the quiet of the night, Jacob began to formulate a plan. If the experiment thrived in secrecy, then exposure was the antidote. His skills with technology, often reserved for school projects and harmless hacking, became the weapon he needed. Coding into the early hours, Jacob created a program that would hack into the school's broadcasting system. It was a one-shot deal. A live video feed during the upcoming assembly would reveal the truth. The assembly hall on the day was abuzz with the usual pre-summer excitement, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within Jacob. With his laptop hidden in his backpack, Jacob positioned himself near the control room, his heart pounding in sync with the seconds ticking away. The moment the principal began his address, Jacob executed his program. The screens flickered to life, displaying Jacob's face, pale but resolute. The hall fell into stunned silence as he spoke, revealing the existence of the forbidden zone, the diary, and the very fabric of manipulation that bound them all. On screen, pages of the diary were displayed, alongside encoded emails and documents Jacob had gathered, implicating several staff members, including Mr. Hughes. The reaction was instantaneous and chaotic. A cacophony of shouts filled the assembly hall as students and teachers alike reacted to the revelations. Some expressed outrage, others disbelief, and a quiet, knowing acceptance. Jacob's broadcast was cut off abruptly, signaling the beginning of pandemonium. In the hours that followed, the school became the epicenter of an emotional earthquake. Students demanded answers from the implicated staff, while others wrestled with the realization of their roles within the experiment. Authorities swept into Elmsworth High, amid the confusion, trying to piece together the fragments of a shattered social structure revealed by Jacob's daring exposure. Outside the school, Jacob watched the fallout, his decision weighing heavily. The fabric of secrecy that had held the experiment together was torn apart, but at what cost? In revealing the dark heart of Elmsworth High, he had also unveiled the fragility of trust within it. As the consequences of his actions unfolded before him, Jacob knew that the battle might have been won, but the war against unseen manipulation and control, was just beginning. As the echo of chaos reverberated through Elmsworth High in the days following the assembly, Jacob found himself navigating a changed landscape. Whispers filled the hallways, not of fear, but of a burgeoning awareness and unity against the manipulation that had once held sway. Jacob's actions had torn down invisible partitions, yet they also erected new barriers between him and those who once trusted him. He had become an outcast, a necessary pariah in the fight for truth. Amidst this turmoil, there was one farewell Jacob dreaded but knew was inevitable. Sarah, recovering from her injuries in the hospital, had become a symbol of the cost of resistance. Visiting her, Jacob found himself grappling with words, trying to articulate the storm of emotions that swirled within him. Sarah, ever the beacon of strength, saved him the struggle. "You did what you had to do, Jacob," she said, her voice carrying the weight of understanding and forgiveness. "We were living in a lie. It's better to be hurt by the truth than comforted by a lie." Their conversation meandered through memories, laughter, and shared dreams, culminating in a poignant silence that spoke volumes of their journey. The visit, though masked in normalcy, was a silent goodbye to the innocence they once shared. In the weeks that followed, Jacob decided on a fresh start. The final days at Elmsworth High passed in a blur, a mix of legal proceedings, interviews, and a school struggling to redefine its identity. When the time came, Jacob's departure was a quiet affair, devoid of the cinematic farewells that fill the pages of novels. It was time to step into a new chapter, one wrought from the ashes of tumultuous revelations. Starting over at a new school, Jacob encountered the wary gazes of those who knew of him only through whispers and headlines. He walked the corridors with a resilience forged from the trials at Elmsworth, his past etched into the lines of his youth. The lessons learned from the forbidden diary, Sarah's resilience, and the betrayal of those he trusted were now the guideposts for his journey forward. In the solitude of his new room, Jacob penned a letter to Sarah, a tradition they had promised to keep alive. His words flowed freely, detailing his hopes, fears, and the mundane details of his new life. It was an act of catharsis, a way to tether himself to the past while courageously charting the unknown waters of the future. Reflecting on the ordeal, Jacob came to understand the dual nature of truth and freedom. He had exposed the darkness at the heart of Elmsworth High, yet in doing so, he had freed himself and his peers from the grips of manipulation. The price was high, paid in isolation and whispered judgments, but Jacob embraced it as the cost of integrity. With the letter sealed and sent, Jacob leaned back, a silent observer of the night sky. The stars, once distant and indifferent, now seemed to acknowledge his journey, a tumultuous passage from darkness into light. Jacob's legacy at Elmsworth High would be one of revolution and revelation, a beacon for those brave enough to question and confront the unseen forces that seek to mold them. In the quiet of the night, a sense of peace settled over Jacob. He had found his purpose not in the chaos he unleashed, but in the clarity it brought. Armored with the lessons of the past, Jacob faced the future unafraid, ready to write the next chapter of his story, one dictated not by hidden experiments or lurking shadows, but by his own hand. The corridors of West Hill High always seemed longer when you were walking them alone. Once upon a time, Jamie navigated these halls flanked by friends, the kind that made you feel invincible, untouchable. That was before the fall, before a single rumor stripped them of their rank, leaving them to tread these checkered floors as an outcast. The echoes of their solitary footsteps now served as a constant reminder of how quickly fortunes could change in high school. It was in one such deserted corridor, the silence a stark contrast to the cacophony of student voices that filled the air during the day, that Jamie found the note. "Watch your back at homecoming," it read, the words scrawled in a jagged, hurried script. Initially, Jamie felt a surge of what could only be described as revengeful satisfaction. The note was clearly meant for the inner circle they once called friends, the same circle that had abandoned them. But as they pocketed the piece of paper, curiosity began to gnaw at them. Was it a harmless prank, or was there more to the ominous warning? Determined to unearth the truth behind the vague threat, Jamie's first stop was Evan. Finding him in the courtyard, Jamie approached, their strides purposeful. Evan's presence had always felt grounding, yet now there was an unfamiliar tension in the air. "What do you want, Jamie?" Evan's voice held a defensiveness as he turned to face them. "Just a minute. I found something," Jamie said, extending the note towards him. Evan glanced at it, his expression unreadable. "And you think this has to do with what exactly?" "I think someone's out to sabotage the homecoming," Jamie pressed, searching his face for any flicker of recognition or concern. But Evan was a fortress, his features giving nothing away. "Why come to me?" Evan asked, his tone flat. "Because I thought you, of all people, would want to get to the bottom of this. Remember when we used to care about each other's problems?" Jamie's words were laced with an undercurrent of bitterness. Evan sighed, a weary sound. "Things change, Jamie. You know that better than anyone." With that, he turned away, leaving Jamie with more questions than answers. Undeterred, Jamie decided it was time to confront the source head-on. A sleepover invitation from Lila, the homecoming queen and a former friend, provided the perfect opportunity. The inside of Lila's room was like stepping into the pages of a high-fashion magazine, each detail meticulously curated. But Jamie wasn't there to admire the decor. As the night wore on and Lila excused herself to the bathroom, Jamie's eyes landed on an open diary, the pages fluttering slightly from the breeze of an open window. Battling a twinge of guilt, Jamie approached the diary. They told themselves it was for the greater good. As their eyes scanned the pages, what they found was not the diary of the Lila they thought they knew, but rather the unfiltered thoughts of someone grappling with deep-seated jealousy and resentment. The entries hinted at an unsettling duality within Lila, a darkness that seemed capable of anything. With the evidence in their mind, Jamie left the sleepover feeling a mix of triumph and trepidation. They had uncovered a crucial piece of the puzzle, but the implications were far more sinister than they could have imagined. The horizon of homecoming hinted at not just a revelation, but a reckoning. The days leading up to homecoming were charged with a palpable tension. Jamie, armed with the knowledge of Lila's troubled inner world, resolved to confront her. They needed answers, and time was running out. The atmosphere of the school had shifted. Whispers of anxiety and anticipation mingled in the air, amplifying the sense of impending doom. Jamie felt it too, a storm brewing on the horizon, threatening to engulf them all. The opportunity presented itself in the school locker room, a space echoing with the sounds of locker doors slamming shut and the murmur of voices. Jamie found Lila isolated, rummaging through her locker. The moment felt ripe for confrontation. "Lila," Jamie Cupp began, their voice firmer than they felt. "We need to talk about the homecoming." Lila turned, her face a mask of practiced serenity. "What about it? Don't play dumb. I know what you've been planning," Jamie challenged, their heart racing. "I've seen your diary." For a fleeting moment, surprise flickered across Lila's face, quickly replaced by anger. "You had no right," she hissed. "Maybe not, but now that I know, we need to stop this. Whatever you're planning, it's not worth it." Jamie pressed, hoping to appeal to the friend they once knew. "You don't understand," Lila whispered, the facade cracking as desperation seeped into her voice. "It's not just me. I can't stop it." The admission sent a chill down Jamie's spine. The implication was horrifying. Lila wasn't in control. The revelation shifted something in Jamie. This wasn't just about exposing a plot. It was about saving Lila from herself. As homecoming night approached, Jamie felt the weight of their task. They had to act, but how could they combat an enemy that was both Lila and not Lila? The night of the homecoming dance, the school gym was transformed into a dreamscape of sparkling lights and vibrant decorations. Students, decked in their finery, filled the room with laughter and high spirits. Jamie, however, remained vigilant, scanning the crowd for any sign of impending chaos. Their search was abruptly halted by the screech of feedback from the speakers. A hushed silence fell over the crowd as everyone's attention snapped to the stage where Lila stood, microphone in hand. Her eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on Jamie, holding their gaze with a menacing intensity. Heart hammering, Jamie realized it was time. This was the moment of truth. They needed to reach Lila before it was too late. With determination fueling their steps, Jamie moved towards the stage, prepared for whatever came next. They had uncovered the darkest parts of Lila's psyche, faced off against her anger, and now they had to save her from the shadows that threatened to consume her. The showdown at the homecoming dance wasn't just about stopping a disaster. It was about rescuing a friend from the depths of her own mind. As Jamie approached the stage, the air was thick with anticipation. The whispers of the crowd melded into a low hum, barely masking the sound of Jamie's heart pounding against their chest. Lila's gaze never wavered, a challenge laid bare in her eyes. This was more than just a confrontation. It was a plea for redemption. "Lila, please," Jamie started, their voice carrying through the sudden stillness of the gym. "This isn't you. The Lila I know wouldn't want this." The microphone trembled slightly in Lila's hand. For a moment, the facade of malice faltered, revealing a glimpse of the vulnerability hidden beneath. "You think you know me?" Lila's voice cracked, a mix of anger and desperation. "You have no idea what it's like, living in the shadows of everyone's expectations." "I may not know everything," Jamie admitted, their tone softening, "but I know you're in pain, and acting on this hurt won't make it go away. It's only going to spread it further." A tense silence enveloped the room. Students looked on, breath held, as if the air itself awaited Lila's response. Then, slowly, painfully, Lila lowered the microphone. The hostile energy that had radiated from her seemed to dissipate, leaving behind a trembling figure, overwhelmed by her own internal battle. Taking advantage of the shift, Jamie stepped closer, their voice barely a whisper. "Let's end this together, Lila. Let's find a way to heal, not hurt." It felt like an eternity passed before Lila nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. The acknowledgement was all Jamie needed. Together, they stepped down from the stage, the weight of the night's events heavy on their shoulders, but lighter in the knowledge that the worst had been averted. The aftermath of the homecoming dance was surreal. The school was abuzz with rumors and speculation, but amidst it all, there was a palpable relief that the night had passed without tragedy. In the days that followed, the community grappled with the revelations of the event. Lila sought help, addressing the suppressed pain that had nearly led her to unforgivable actions. The popular clique that had once seemed invincible disbanded, each member reflecting on the roles they played in the events that had unfolded. Jamie, though still an outsider, was viewed in a different light. Their courage to face Lila, to reach out with empathy rather than condemnation, marked a turning point not only in their own life but in the lives of all those involved. The story of that homecoming night would linger in the halls of West Hill High, a tale of darkness confronted with the power of understanding and compassion. It served as a reminder of the complexities hidden beneath the surface of high school life, the unseen battles fought, and the strength found in confronting our darkest moments with hope for redemption. Jamie's walk through the school corridors was no longer a solitary journey. It was a path walked with the knowledge that even in our darkest hours, there's always a chance for renewal. The echoes of their footsteps, once a reminder of isolation, now resonated with the resolve of someone who had faced the abyss and emerged stronger, more compassionate, and infinitely wiser.
Emma's first day at Riverdale High was not what she expected. She anticipated the unfamiliar hallways, the sea of unknown faces, and even the daunting task of navigating her new school's social landscape. What she didn't anticipate, however, was the unsettling sensation of being watched that clung to her like a second shadow, nor the whispers that seemed to follow her from classroom to classroom. Whispers of something hidden, something nearly forgotten. The mention of a hidden room by her classmates was brushed off as nothing more than a tired school legend, a ghost story repurposed by each generation of students as their own. Yet as Emma walked the old, creaking corridors of Riverdale High, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was truth laced within those whispered tales. It wasn't just curiosity that propelled her. It was a budding need to uncover the secrets that seemed to pulse beneath the surface of this ostensibly ordinary school. A month into the semester, Emma's drive to uncover the mystery of the hidden room consumed her. It was on one unremarkable Thursday, under the guise of seeking out a quiet place to study, that Emma stumbled upon the entrance to the hidden room concealed behind a forgotten section of the school library. The discovery was accidental, a result of a misplaced bookshelf revealing a door long sealed by dust and silence. Heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear, Emma pushed the door open, stepping into a room that felt suspended in time. The hidden room was a time capsule, filled with personal belongings, photographs, and journals, artifacts of students who had vanished without a trace decades ago. Emma's initial thrill of discovery gave way to a chilling realization. These students had been forgotten, their stories buried within the walls of Riverdale High. Feeling the weight of their silenced voices, Emma knew she couldn't turn her back on them. She needed allies. She confided in Nathan, her neighbor who had quickly become a friend, and Zoe, a vibrant classmate whose curiosity matched her own. Together, the trio began to piece together the stories the room safeguarded, stories intertwined with the fabric of Riverdale High. But as they delved deeper, the stakes became alarmingly clear. Nathan, ever the skeptic, had his doubts, but couldn't ignore the evidence that was piling up. Zoe's empathy for the missing student's plight drove her to dig deeper, regardless of the consequences. Their investigation, however, did not go unnoticed. The trio started to receive ominous warnings, notes slipped into lockers, whispers from shadowed corners, cautioning them to stop their search. But it was Nathan's disappearance that transformed their quest from an investigation into a rescue mission. Gone without a trace, with no word or warning, Nathan's absence left a void that was maddeningly out of place in the rhythm of their daily lives. Emma and Zoe were frantic, torn between the search for their friend and the unyielding drive to expose the truth behind the hidden room. Nathan's return, days later, with a haunted look in his eyes and a refusal to speak of his ordeal, only intensified their resolve. It was clear. They were no longer just students caught up in a high school mystery. They were in the depths of something far darker, something that consumed. When Zoe was taken, the reality of their situation hit with dizzying force. She vanished just as suddenly, just as inexplicably as the students whose belongings filled the hidden room. Emma and Nathan, bound by fear, guilt, and an unspoken promise made in the heart of their investigation, knew there was no turning back. The hidden room's secret was actively reclaiming its hold on Riverdale High, with Zoe as its next victim. The decision to save Zoe was not a choice, but a necessity. Emma and Nathan, with the pieces of the puzzle they had painstakingly collected, confronted the shadows of Riverdale High head-on, embarking on a rescue that would unravel the history of the hidden room and its sinister purpose. The fight to save Zoe was more than a mission. It was a declaration. The past would no longer remain buried, and its victims would not be forgotten. The confrontation with the society's leader unfolded beneath the flickering lights of the hidden room, where the shadows seemed to dance with malicious intent. There, in the very heart of the mystery, stood Mr. Davis, a teacher revered for his dedication to Riverdale High's history. The revelation of his involvement with the Forgotten Society sent ripples of shock and betrayal through Emma and Nathan, but desperation lent them courage. Mr. Davis, draped in the eerie calm of a man whose convictions were carved in the darkness of twisted rituals, attempted to justify the sacrifices as a means to an end, a perverse form of immortality for the society's members. Emma and Nathan, fueled by the urgent need to save Zoe, found themselves embroiled in a verbal spar with Davis, trying to distract him long enough to find Zoe and disrupt the impending ritual. The stakes could not have been higher as they discovered Zoe, bound and semi-conscious, in an adjoining chamber, the centerpiece of a ceremony that harked back to decades of secrecy and loss. Their rescue attempt was frantic, a chaos of motion as they freed Zoe from her restraints, the room alive with the shouts of the society's members and the heart-pounding fear of the trio. It was Nathan who interrupted the ritual, casting aside the ceremonial artifacts and confronting Mr. Davis in a moment that felt both reckless and inevitable. Emma, with Zoe now conscious and clinging to her side, joined Nathan, their stand against Davis symbolizing their refusal to be swallowed by the shadows of Riverdale High. The interruption of the ritual was palpable, a tangible shift in the atmosphere as the society's members hesitated, caught off guard by the audacity of youth, unwilling to bow to the weight of tradition and secrecy. This provided the trio with a crucial moment to escape, dragging themselves and the remnants of their courage through the labyrinthine corridors of the school, away from the hidden room and its captive horrors. In the aftermath, their evidence, gathered painstakingly over months of investigation, was laid bare before the authorities and the media. The exposure of the society and its sordid history of sacrifices sparked outrage and disbelief. But for Emma, Nathan, and Zoe, it was a grim sort of vindication. The arrest of Mr. Davis and the investigation into the society's members dismantled the web of secrecy that had ensnared Riverdale High for decades. Yet, the trio couldn't help but feel the hollowness of their victory. The awareness that justice for the past victims of the hidden room came at the expense of their innocence and naivety. As the authorities began the process of sealing off the hidden room once and for all, Emma, Nathan, and Zoe watched from a distance, their bond forged in the fires of a truth too harrowing to forget. They had confronted the darkness lurking in the heart of their school and emerged scarred but resilient. The echoes of the missing students' stories, a haunting reminder of the price of curiosity and the weight of silence. As the heavy door to the hidden room groaned shut for the last time, sealed by the combined efforts of the authorities and workers, the weight of the past few months seemed to lift ever so slightly from Emma, Nathan, and Zoe's shoulders. They stood together, a silent pact between them, watching as concrete was poured over the entrance, an unspoken agreement that the horrors of the room would remain buried, just as the society intended for its secrets. In the days following the room's sealing, the trio found themselves adrift in a Riverdale High that felt both familiar and irrevocably changed. The school buzzed with the scandal of Mr. Davis and the secret society, but beneath the gossip and the incredulous stares, there was a palpable sense of relief, as if the school itself had been holding its breath, waiting for the truth to emerge. Emma, Nathan, and Zoe grappled with their new reality in their way. Emma threw herself into a campaign to honor the memories of the missing students, ensuring that their stories were not forgotten amidst the sensational revelations about the hidden room. Nathan found solace in action, working alongside Emma to create a memorial in the school grounds, a peaceful corner where the names of the vanished were engraved, a testament to their existence and their impact on Riverdale High. Zoe, her artistic soul forever marked by their ordeal, curated an exhibition of photographs capturing the essence of their investigation: the fear, the determination, the camaraderie. It was a cathartic process, transforming the shadows of their experience into something tangible, a way to process and perhaps one day to heal. In the aftermath of their confrontation with the darkness at the heart of their school, the trio found themselves at a local diner, a place untouched by the events that had shaken their lives. Over milkshakes and fries, they shared a moment of reflection, a chance to breathe, to laugh, to mourn. They talked of the future, of college and careers and adventures yet to come, but the conversation always circled back to the hidden room, to the students they had fought to remember. As they stepped out into the night, the diner's neon lights casting long shadows on the sidewalk, Emma, Nathan, and Zoe knew that their journey through the heart of Riverdale High's darkness had changed them in ways they were only beginning to understand. They had exposed a century-old horror, saved a friend, and perhaps themselves from being consumed by the past. But more than that, they had uncovered a truth about courage, about the power of standing together against the shadows that sought to silence them. The hidden room was sealed, its secrets buried once again, but the stories of those who had vanished would live on, a beacon of hope and a warning, echoing through the halls of Riverdale High for generations to come. In the end, Emma, Nathan, and Zoe walked away from the diner, from the night that marked the end of their ordeal, with a sense of closure and a resolve to carry the story of the hidden room with them, a reminder of the darkness they had faced and the light they had found within each other. They had ventured into the unknown, and though they emerged scarred, they emerged together, forever bound by the mystery of the hidden room and the truths it had revealed.